Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with an episode, I guess, of what we're going to call the Rogue Market. Let me announce in March, I think that we're going to set March as the target date for when I'm going to be doing the scheduled YouTube Rogue Deck Builder videos. Monday is going to be what I'm going to call Market Monday, and I'm going to try to give you each week my picks for a different format to invest in. We'll do some recaps on how well we did. I really want to get back into kind of the investing in Magic the Gathering because I've been able to make some huge investments that paid off in the past, and I've kind of gotten away from that in this, and it's really starting to hurt me on MTGO not having a nice little spec to cash in on. Stony Silences kept me alive on MTGO for a good, I would say, 6-7 months. I didn't have to pay for any MTGO. Now let me tell you, I am the opposite of any sort of player on MTGO that goes quote unquote infinite because I play rogue decks. Like, I spend an absolute insane amount of money just for the upkeep of Rogue Deck Builder and the Gathering Magic playing on a budget videos because of how many cards I have to buy and test and play around with. Each new brew is usually a fresh brew that requires fresh new cards. Playing on a budget is particularly tricky because then I have to really get creative and a lot of times buy cards I'd otherwise never buy or use as they are more, even though they are budget cards, it still does really chip away at the wallet. So anyway, Stony Silences, if you remember back in, I don't even know when it was, you can go back in my YouTube videos, you can say when I told everyone to invest in Stony Silences because they were 5 cents a piece on MTGO and they were in the top 10 most played spells, and I said it was just a matter of time before they'll at least go up to a ticket or two, and my cash out target zone was 2 tickets. And they did go up to 2 tickets. In fact, they went well beyond 2 tickets, up to about 7 or 8 tickets at their peak. But I did cash out at 2 tickets a piece. So I spent $300, or not $300, excuse me. I bought 300 Stony Silences, and then for about 0.5 cent or 0.5 tickets to, or 0.05 cents to 40 cents. So 0.05 tickets to 0.4 tickets, and then cashed out at the 2 tickets. So it was a phenomenal growth in that spec and was able to just, I didn't have to trade in a lot of mythics. A lot of times I have to get rid of mythics that I use in other decks or cash in a lot of money into tickets to build decks for. Oh, also just playing like events like 2-man queues and 8-man queues really add up. Spending those 2 tickets and 8 tickets to join those, especially with the new system. I love leagues. Leagues aren't very expensive to play on MTGO. But the 2-man and 8-man queues are absolutely worthless to play now, and it really, a lot of times I don't have time to do a league, so to do a 2-man queue, you're losing basically all of your value, and so it's just basically like $2 for me to make a video on MTGO, and that's just one video, as the value you get out of those 2-man queues is just absolutely horrid. Anywho, so I want to get back to speccing on cards, because it is in my best interest just for a value reason. I mean, I'm like everyone else. I am not rich, so it takes a lot for me to upkeep the channel, and we need good spec targets, and I really need to get back doing that. So anyway, without this 3-minute and 50 introduction, we'll get back to the Rogue Market every Monday. We're going to try to look at kind of undervalued cards and also upcoming dual decks like this, dual deck Bless versus Curse. If you can get ahead of the buying and selling after like dual decks or other cards are released, like the best thing is just to find like synergistic cards. Say, okay, this card is going to make this card viable now, or this card's going to shut down this strategy, which is going to make this deck actually good again or bad again. And you just try to get ahead of the game. I've sold off all of my Eldrazi Temples and I have Ugins because I am dead certain there is going to be a ban with Shadows over Innistrad with either Eye of Ugin or Eldrazi Temple. The deck is just too efficient, even though now, spoiler alert, with that deck that I just made, the Painter Servant deck, I'm 3-1, which isn't enough of a pool of data to give you to say if the Eldrazi or the Painter Servant's actually good versus Eldrazi. But there is ways to combat Eldrazi. It doesn't feel as bad as things have been in the past with shutting down like a tier 1 deck, but it's still just too efficient, especially when they get those crazy draws with spitting out like 3 cards on turn number 2 followed up with a Thoughtseize. That draw is nearly impossible to beat with Eldrazi. So I suggest getting rid of your Eldrazi temples and your Eye of Ugins unless you're playing them immediately right now for an upcoming tournament, or if you're just having so much fun that it's worth losing the value of when one of those cards is going to get banned. Thought-Knot Seers, all those Rally Smashers, I think that they'll go down in price, but probably not too much because they are seeing a lot of standard play. So that is the goal of the Rogue Market each Monday. We'll try to do that. For today, I'm just going to talk about dual decks, Bless versus Curse. I haven't looked over the entire deck. I've looked over a bit of it, and right now I'm very disappointed with it, but we do have some awesome cards that are being printed in this set. And so let's just talk about right now. So Captain of the Mist is one of the first new cards that we're getting, and it says whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, untap it. You may tap or untap target permanent. This card at rarity, it's going to be open like crazy though in Shadows of Innistrad, so I don't think this is going to be able to hold its value. It's going to be probably down into bulk rare, just because I don't think that it's going to. I mean, here's another twin piece. I wish they'd quit printing these things, because they just need to word it differently, and then it can't untap itself and you put a copy of itself. So whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, untap it. So it works with twin, because it makes a copy of itself, and then that copy untaps it, blah blah blah, boom. It's and then it's got the added value that you may tap or untap target permanent for 2 mana. So I think that this card, of course, will hold around a little above bulk rare. I don't know if it is quite standard playable. Like it dies to too many of the removals for 3 investment, and the activation on the tap or untap is a bit high. But this is going to be a commander like powerhouse. I'm absolutely going to use it in my Experimental Craj deck, because this is exactly what Experimental Craj wants, is this ability. It's a cool deck with Experimental Craj. I actually don't even use Experimental Craj as my commander anymore. I use Momor Vig. But this is just completely broken in a Momor Vig deck, the ability to be able to untap permanents, especially when you're using things like Nykthos, Shrine of Nyx, or Gaia's Cradle in the deck. It leads to some very, very easy infinite mana scenarios. So I think the commander is going to be a powerhouse standard, not quite there, but it could easily see standard play. So the next thing we get is the Mindrack Demon for 4 mana. Flying Trample when it enters the battlefield. Put the top 4 cards of your library into the graveyard. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 4 life unless there are 4 more card types among card types in your graveyard. It is pretty good for a self-mill strategy. It's going to be great for it doesn't work quite off Madness, though, but it works off. If there was Flashback, I don't think we know if there's any other mechanic, but Innistrad uses the graveyard a lot. It did in the last block, and I'm sure it will in this block as well. And this is a good way to feed your own graveyard for any reanimation type strategy. The 4 life isn't that relevant. You can run like cards like there'll still be Evolving Wilds, or I'm sure other lands that go to the graveyard. And a 4/5 for 4 mana is very, very value, especially Flying Trample. I think Trample is very relevant here. And the 5 toughness is also very relevant, because it will dodge, I'm sure, some removals in there. There's a -4 right now. Grasp of Darkness, I believe. Yeah, so it dodges some of the premier removal, and it will definitely see standard play, but we'll see if it's actually the delirium effect is actually going to push it over to playable or not, because that 4 life is very relevant. So anywho, we'll go on to Eerie Interlude. I think this is another, as far as Mythic is concerned, this, of course, the dual deck will drive the price of this one down, and I don't think this is a shiny enough card to justify people buying into the deck like crazy. So it's pretty meh in my opinion as far as being included into a dual deck. Eerie Interlude, excellent number of target creatures you control, and you turn those creatures to the battlefield in your control at the beginning of next end step. That card is insanely good with any sort of flicker-based strategy. It will see modern and standard play. People will at least try to play with it. This is pretty great in the Abzan Flicker deck. The problem with Eerie Interlude is we're losing Siege Rhinos, so we're losing the best card for this, but there's still a bunch of cards that do get a lot of value with Enter the Battlefield. It's going to be a very, very good card in Commander and Casual, and so I can see this card holding a high price tag. So this is one of the really, really beneficial cards for justifying buying into the dual deck. Pour Over the Pages is kind of a filler card. Draw 3 cards and tap up to 2 lands and discard a card. This gets insane as far as the untap up to 2 lands. I thought Wizards learned their lesson with cards like Cloud of Fairy and whatnot, but it is 5 mana to untap 2 lands, so it's not nearly as broken as the like Cloud of Fairies, which is 2 mana to untap 2 lands. But when this could untap like a Guy's Cradle or a Nykthos Shrine of Nyx or a lot of these lands that can generate a lot of mana, it can lead to some crazy scenarios. And the drawing 3 cards is pretty good with this. The Pour of the Pages is sorcery speed. With what makes this good is then you can main phase this and then still untap up to 2 lands to hold up like enough for a pseudo counterspell. Like it's 3 mana now in standard that it requires for you to have a hard, what I call a hard counterspell. And this can still leave up and negate though. So I do like this a lot as far as the ability to main phase at sorcery speed, but instant speed I think would be just even better than the untapped 2 lands if this was just instant speed, draw 3 cards and discard a card. But we already have spells that are more powerful than that, because this is net up 2 cards, so you draw 3 and then discard a card. That is very well. It works with Madness too, is what's kind of cool, because you draw 3 cards, untap them to 2 lands, and then discard a card. So there's a Madness 2 card in the set that is really powerful for whatever reason. Pour of the Pages is going to be a good little Madness enabler. Another thing that this Pour of the Pages works well with is Surge. So you draw 3 cards, untap 2 lands for a Surge. There's a lot of Surge 2 spells. So just keep that in mind. I think that it's going to be a nice little filler card. If not, it's going to be great in Limited. And it probably will see some Standard play. And again, some Commander play, just because they untap up to 2 lands is so broken in Commander. Diagraph Captain, that's a great card that's being reprinted. Unfortunately, it's been reprinted in other sets as well. And this is a card that I invested a lot into during I think this was in Dark Ascension, and it just has never really gone up in value because it's a Lord, but it's just been printed into Oblivion. I believe it was in a Commander deck as well. And so it's had a hard time gaining any value. And there's 2 of them in this deck, so it's just going to kill any sort of future that Diagraph Captain actually has. Compelling Deterrence. Return target non-land or deterrence. How do you say it? Is it deterrence or deterrence? I think it's deterrence. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, then that player discards a card if you control a zombie. This card is absolutely insanely good. I really like this, other than we are in a Madness format, so you can actually kind of be helping your opponent out, but you can actually use this on yourself. You can return a non-land permanent that you control to your owner's hand, and then discard a card if you control a zombie, so you can actually help yourself that way. Protect something, discard something. I like this card a lot. I think it's great. I think that in a zombie tribal, it's what was it? There was a card clear back in I think like Torment or Odyssey that bounced a card and made him discard a card. It had black in it too. I think it was a multicolor card, and it was really good in Limited, and it actually did seek some constructed play. So I really like this compelling deterrence. So let's go on to the Tooth Collector. When Tooth Collector enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1. With Delirium at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, there are 4 more card types among card types in your graveyard. Target creature that player controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Not bad at all. I think that killing off a 1/1 each turn is really good. And the ability just when it enters the battlefield to give -1/-1 is great. This is more of a limited card than a constructed card. Of course, I don't think this is going to quite be powerful enough to see play, but it is a rogue, so of course we got to like it, because anything with the rogue tribal makes me happy. And yeah, great little limited card. Topplegeist, flying. When Topplegeist enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls, and then Delirium if there are 4 more card types, tap target creature that player controls. This is actually a really sweet card. A 1/1 flying for 1 mana usually does see constructed play, unless there's just something better in that slot. And the ability to tap a creature an opponent controls when it comes into play. Craig Wesco and other white weenie decks are going to love this card. I think it does exactly what the deck wants to do. You don't even really need to you can just ignore the Delirium text, and I think that it's good enough right now with the tapping a creature and the 1/1 body flying for 1. Delirium is just like a nice little added bonus to the deck. So those are the new cards from the deck, from the Curse versus Blessed. There isn't a lot of other cards. We do know that Geist of St is going to be the card that is the chase card out of the Blessed part, and everything else is kind of meh. There isn't really anything that is going to be worth, I think, even over $1. And we'll look at that in just 1 second. In the curse slot, this is where I'm very, very disappointed again that Damnation was not printed. Cursed, damned, it's synonymous. And it would have been a great time for them to reprint the Damnation and drop the value. Yes, 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 this would have led to people buying this product like crazy and maybe it really being out of reach for a casual player's hands. But like Walmart, Target, all the big box stores have dual decks. And I think that no matter how many people bought these decks, they'd still be available for the casual player. And I don't think that should ever deter Wizards from printing a reprinting card. I think this is exactly where, since we're not having another core set ever again, this is exactly where they need to reprint these insanely valuable cards just to take the value down. Now, one of the reasons Damnation is so expensive is it is rarer than a Mythic, if you put it into perspective. Like, if you compare it to Return to Ravnica or On Mythic, the Damnation, there's more Mythics from any of the Return to Ravnica blocks on than there are Damnations from a rare from, what was that, Plane Chase or Plane Shifted? The rares in there are more rare nowadays than the amount of Mythics from anything Return to Ravnica. Maybe even Innistrad on. So that is the price tag. Damnation sees a lot of play in Commander, a little bit of play in Modern, and a lot of play in Casual. But it doesn't see enough play to justify the insane price tag of like 60 plus bucks. And it's just that it is so rare and it hasn't had a reprint, to the reason why it's so expensive. And if it would have been put in a deck like the Curse versus Blessed, people would have bought it like crazy just because there's a $60 card in it. It would have drove the price way down into the $10 to $15 mark, because that's how dual decks work. They have to always stabilize down to the MSRP, because if not, people just keep buying the product. So with a Geist at $13 and a Damnation at $60, it dropped both those cards significantly. Geist is kind of in the same slot. It doesn't see a lot of play. You see it in Big Zoo every now and again. You also see it in a Bant aggro deck, or even kind of a Bant tempo deck in Modern every now and again. But it's not a very, very popular deck. It suffers from not being able to kill your opponent as quickly as some of the hyper-aggressive decks, and then you can just get comboed out. But Geist also sees play in like Jeskai Control every now and again. It sees play in Jeskai Control or Jeskai Tempo. So Geist is only at $13 right now. This deck is gonna really drive it down. I don't think that this deck has enough to really get me excited to buy into. I do like some of the new cards, but you got to keep in mind those new cards are only. The Mythic is very underwhelming, and the rares are rares. And this set is going to be open like crazy. We haven't seen whatever little, what do you want to call them, Easter eggs? I don't even know. What not Easter egg. Easter egg is definitely not the right word. It's kind of thing like Expedition. What little prize they're going to put in the Innistrad packs, or the Shadows of Innistrad packs, to make people buy these packs like crazy. They have a lot of pressure to keep up with the Battle for Zendikar, and I don't think that just everyone's favorite block was Innistrad is going to be enough hype to sell as many packs as Battle for Zendikar. So they've got the pressure to really, really outsell it, and so far we haven't. There's going to be something exciting they're going to put in it to make you want to buy it. So the rares out of this dual deck Curse versus Blessed are going to be very, very low, just because it's going to be drafted as a 3-of. At the pre-release, people are going to open up an insane amount of them, and people are going to continue to buy this product like crazy. So keep that in mind. I right at this moment, the rares are not worth, or in the Mythics and Rares, the new Mythics and Rares do not push this over the top, because right now, with the known data that we have, this deck is only 15 plus 22 is only going to be worth $37, and that's adding up every piece. So the things that you could actually sell, the Champion, the Parish, which does actually see a lot of play right now in Naya Allies. This card is insanely good in Naya Allies. And the Geist of St. Taft. So it's basically worth $15 from the Blessed side, plus a couple of these sort of bulk rares, the Pour Over Pages and the Eerie Interlude. The Flicker one, I would say, is worth around $2 to $3. And will probably stabilize at $1 to $2 unless it sees a ton of play for whatever reason. And that pushes this up to about $17 from the Blessed right now. I mean, right now as we speak. And the Curse side, we have a Mythic that's, I would say, is worth $3. And then we have a Gravecrawler, which I would say is around $6. So I would say this one's worth around $9. is all. I'm not very happy with anything else in that. Like Harvest of Souls will go way down when this deck starts being. This is basically just a card that sees playing Commander, and there's nothing else in this deck that really has. Oh, there's a Dread Return, but again, this card has been lately printed into oblivion with the Commander decks and whatnot. So I would say if you put them together, this is barely worth its MSRP right now. And the mythics and rares from the new set do not push it over the top, and this is just going to get worse. So in comparison to some of the latest dual, I mean, it's right on par with the latest dual decks because they've all been pretty bad lately. There hasn't been a lot of excitement. Like the Haste versus Cunning wasn't very good. At least we got like an uncommon staple in a lot of these. And in this one, really the only card that to really get excited over is just the Geist and Gravecrawler. I mean, they're both solid cards though, so it could be worse. But this is disappointing that there wasn't any uncommon that we desperately needed reprinted, like another Remand, or you could have actually put like an Inquisition of Kozilek, even though it doesn't fit the kind of flavor here. But I mean, there could have been another card from, I mean, even Dismember, but that's Phyrexian mana, so I guess that'd be hard to shove in this. But just they need to take these opportunities with these reprints to throw in the uncommons and commons. They're starting to get out of control in the modern format. So anyway, let me know in the comment section below. This actually went a lot longer than I hoped for, 20 minutes if people are still with me. But I hope I got some in-depth, my little analysis of the market. I'll try to explain more of the theories of speculating and investing later on. This will be a Monday series. I'm not going to do any more for today. Today being President's Day, I got to go open the shop earlier when the kids are out of school and whatnot. So, but we are going to. I'm gonna bring on 2 video editors. They're actually gonna be able to edit videos, so you're gonna have a lot less rambling. They'll edit those out, and we're gonna bring on some more staff to RogueDeckBuilder.com and start getting some more writers and whatnot. I'm gonna try to go this full time. So when we hit 25,000 subscribers, I am gonna try to do like a Kickstarter or a Patreon to try to get some sleeves funded and more playmats made and things like that. But it's really a goal of mine. I don't want to really, I'd rather, instead of doing like a Patreon or a Kickstarter, I'd rather have people just support me in other ways, like buy from my sponsors or buy playmats or buy t-shirts or buy, I'm really into the mindset that you get something and I get something, not just here, hey, let's help Kevin not have a real job. And no offense to those people that do ask for money or do get supported entirely from Patreon. I'm just not ready. I'm just not willing at this point to really put it on my fans to really support me. I'd rather have you support your local game stores at this point. And I mean, running a local game stores, I know just how much, like, every dollar is needed to keep them alive and running. It is just a really, really, really tough market right now in retail, especially when you have a lot of your local gamers would rather buy from eBay or TCG Player to save a buck or a quarter here and there, which is just plain insanity. You'd be surprised at how many people are just like penny pinchers when it comes to Magic the Gathering, when they don't realize that, hey, we have a lot of overhead, a ton of overhead at a local game store. And me and Zach, we're running it as a hobby. I don't even know how anyone makes it in the local game store industry. It is just such terrible, terrible margins on booster packs and a lot of these other sealed products when you actually have to compete with the big box stores and with Amazon and eBay especially. And now even TCG Player and everything else. So support your local game store first and foremost. Keep those lights running at your local game stores. It is very important to the community that they survive. Without local game stores, Magic is awful. So go support them. If you feel like supporting Rogue Deck Builder, we have a bazillion ways to do so. And again, I will set that Patreon up when we hit 25,000 subscribers. You can donate directly through PayPal. You can donate here on the YouTube. The Rogue Deck Builder YouTube channel has a way to donate. You can buy a playmat at RogueDeckBuilder.com. You can visit my sponsors and buy cards from them and just tell them that Rogue Deck Builder sends it. Every now and again, they give me a little bit of a kickback for that. So anyway, I appreciate all of the support, and I hope that I'm going to try to stay focused as possible to give you a schedule. Monday is going to be a market video every week. Tuesday is going to be a community spotlight. Wednesday is, no, I can't remember. Wednesday is going to be a Rogue Brew. Thursday, I'm going to try to do some Dice Master videos until I completely move that over to my Dice Master channel. Friday, I'm going to do an FNM Primer, which will be the deck that I'm playing at my local game store for Friday Night Magic, which will be either Modern, Standard, or Pauper. And Saturday, I'm going to bring some Commander videos. And then Sunday, we're going to bring back Twitch. And we're going to call it Church. And we'll have a nice little session and whatnot. So that's my plan. So this is hopefully a schedule I can keep. I'm going to be very busy and you're going to have a lot of content. So 25 minutes, this is Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.